Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are checking out some more Mattel Jurassic World Dominion figures, and I feel like fairly soon I'm not going to get to say that anymore because we're moving from the Dominion line to the Dino Trackers line, so this may be one of the last Dominion reviews, which is pretty sad because I actually quite enjoyed Dominion and the toy line in general. Definitely was a really nice toy line. But this time we have wave 3 of the minifigures, and again, potentially the last wave of the Dominion minis. And we don't actually have the entire wave here before us because we only have the new figures. There are 3 other figures that are included in this wave that we've already had numerous times, which is the Green Rex, the Brown Rex, and the Giganotosaurus. The Giga has made an appearance in every single wave, almost every playset, I would say, that included the minis, and also the Rex. At least one of the 2 variants has been included in both Wave 1 and Wave 2. I think the Brown Rex was Wave 1, the Green Rex was Wave 2. Both are now included with Wave 3. And to show you that, we actually have a little slip here, if I can open it up, because it's kind of being a pain. There we go. So here is the little slip that's included that shows you all the different figures in Wave 3 of these minis. You can see that we've got a Suchomimus, a Concavenator, the Giganotosaurus, as I was just speaking of, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which I was also just speaking of. We have a new version of an Atrociraptor, a Parasaurolophus, the Therizinosaurus, which is a figure that has been in the line before, but it came with a figure that potentially we didn't have. I don't even actually remember what it came with because I opened them all up already, as you can see right there. And I don't even recall who was the partner to that figure, but you can also see we've got a Parasaurolophus, a Pyro Raptor, a Ceratosaurus, a Stygimoloch. We also have the Nasutoceratops, the Sinoceratops, the Green Rex, the Yangchuanosaurus, and the Moros. So some really cool new species that we did not have in the minifigures prior, as well as some incredible repaints. And honestly, I'm a pretty big fan of almost everything I see here, and in fact, I would say that 2 of the figures included might be 2 of the best minis that we've ever had, and that would be the Nasutoceratops and the Sinoceratops. They are 2 gorgeous looking figures, although the Nasutoceratops for sure. I can't recall if the Sinoceratops didn't, because I didn't pay too much attention to that one because I'm more enthusiastic about the Nasutoceratops, but it doesn't have eye paint, and I don't know why. That's really stupid. But regardless, some pretty cool stuff here, so let's jump to a closer look at all of these right now. I think this might have been the Dino Rivals coloration, but I can't really call exactly. But I know we definitely had this coloration on like one of the Roarovores or Roar Attack figures at some point, and you can see again the sculpt is really nicely done, but for the majority of the figure we have kind of like a really dark green. We also have some kind of splotchy red there. Moving through the eye is a yellow, really quite large spot of yellow right there for the eye. We also have some more of that red kind of running along the back, along those trademark Concavenator humps, and then you also have a little area of kind of like a light yellow here on the underside. It doesn't run for very long, only from the throat down to the chest region, but it still looks pretty cool, and unfortunately no articulation or anything with this one, but I definitely like the fact that we got one with this coloration because, again, it is a paint variant of the Concavenator that we've had in the past, and definitely a pretty cool looking one. I'm actually quite the fan of this coloration on the Concavenator, so this one is pretty cool as well. I believe this is the second time, potentially, that we had the Concavenator in the Mattel minifigure line, but still another pretty cool version. We've also got a Yangchuanosaurus in the line for Wave 3, and you can see that sculpt and detail-wise, it looks pretty nice. Looks pretty much like the larger figure did, but of course in a much smaller size range. You can see that primarily we have a nice greenish tone of color for the body. We also have kind of like a greenish yellow up here that kind of designs down and just like splotches down, cuts off right there in the hip region. But you can also see we have a little bit of a brighter yellow there for the crest area of our Yangchuanosaurus, which definitely looks pretty cool. We have red spots for the eyes, no real eye paint other than those red spots, so it's not like we get like pupils or anything, unfortunately. We do, if I can get it open, have an articulated jaw for the figure, which is pretty cool. You can see the detail and everything on the inside of the mouth looks fairly nice. We have a brownish tone of color for the lower jaw, and that's it. It doesn't run down into the underside at all. There's no coloration past that point. But it's definitely a pretty cool looking figure, really quite awesome to have a Yangchuanosaurus in the minifigure line, and definitely another nice looking figure for the minis. Pretty darn nice looking sculpt, fairly nice looking paint scheme. We've also got the Therizinosaurus. Now this one, I don't think there's anything different with at all. I think this is probably the same figure we've had numerous times at this point, so I don't think we really need to go over this one at all, because if you have seen any of the previous waves or any of the previous reviews of the waves, you'll already be very familiar with that figure. Then we, though, have the Stygimoloch, and this one's really quite awesome, because look at how small it is, first of all. This is the first time we've had, as far as I can recall, the Stygimoloch in the Dominion line, and it's nice to see again that this one is a bit smaller, because they now size the different figures up quite differently compared to smaller species to larger species. And this one has some pretty darn nice paint. We have a really cool kind of like a light reddish brown or an orangish brown for the majority of the color, and then we have this nice brown that runs along the back, the darker brown. You can see it runs all the way out onto the tail, making the figure look really nice. We even have the dome skull painted, the kind of bumps and everything all over the side of the head running off the back of the head. We also have a black eye, and there's even kind of like a speckling throughout the figure as well. So I would say probably one of the nicer painted minifigures that we've had, and definitely a really cool looking version, one that I'm actually really quite psyched about. I think I'm probably most excited about the two Ceratopsians, but this one follows right behind those. Then we've got ourselves the Pyro Raptor, and the Pyro Raptor is, again, the same figure that we've had quite a few times now. I don't see anything different or new on this one compared to previous releases. Really cool figure, definitely a fan of this one. And if you actually find the Matchbox set that includes this one, that one has a slight metallic look to it, so a little difference on the Matchbox set if you can find that. But this one, again, looks pretty much the same as the previously released versions. Really nice looking, but nothing, that we really need to go over. Then we've got the Moros, and what I like about the Moros is, first of all, again, it looks similar to the Mattel, what is it, like the Wild Pack or Ferocious Pack version that we have now. But they went with the more Dominion-style color scheme for it, rather than that kind of brighter color that we saw initially, and I was wondering if we did get a Moros, what color scheme we would get, because as far as like the pop-ups go, we got that first color scheme rather than the more Dominion-like version, but this time we actually did get the Dominion-type coloration for the, smaller version, the minifigure version. And we have, again, a kind of like a really dark brown, and then you have the red running along the back, and then you have a nice kind of like a light gray lower jaw, and that coloration runs down into the chest. And then you've got yellow eyes. That's really about it as far as coloration goes, but the actual sculpt and detail does look quite nice on this one. Not, again, exactly accurate to what you see in the film, because the one in the film is quite a bit more feathered than you see on this version, but it's still a pretty darn nice looking version, again, of the minifigure Moros compared to the original release that we had from Mattel. And it really quite nicely replicates the sculpt, again with a more Dominion-style paint job. Then we've got ourselves an Atrociraptor, and my camera doesn't want to focus on it. So there we go, we can now see the Atrociraptor. This time we have a totally random coloration for this one, as we have like orange running down the back, and then a nice striping, almost reminiscent to Atrociraptor tiger, but then we have really light whites here for the lower part. When I originally had seen this in the promotional images, I thought at first that it was just a ghost version of an Atrociraptor until I noticed that orange running along the top, and I think it's a pretty cool coloration, honestly. I love the way that the orange plays off of the white for the lower part of the figure. You can see, there we go, we do have painted eyes. It actually looks like we have a pupil and everything on this one, which is pretty crazy. I don't know if that was just a mix-up, or maybe it was meant to actually happen, because Mattel doesn't seem to want to put much effort into the paint jobs of these minis, so I'm kind of impressed to see that. But again, it's pretty cool. It doesn't look like it's any different as far as the sculpt goes. Definitely looks to be the same sculpt we've had repeatedly for these Atrociraptors the entire time, but still a pretty nice looking paint job, and one that I'm definitely happy to have now in my collection. We've also got ourselves the Suchomimus, sporting, again, a really nice coloration with a yellowish tone and then brown running down along the back. I think we had this coloration as well in the Mattel line on a larger version at some point. You can see that we do have painted eyes for this one with a light brown, and again, it kind of looks like we have an attempt at a pupil, even though the pupil would just be the darker brown there, but still nice to see that. We do have an articulated jaw, which opens really, really wide on the Suchomimus, and then you also have a nice kind of like an off-white here, or like a light gray, running along the underside of the Suchomimus. That's really about it. There's not really too much going on coloration-wise, and we have had the sculpt in the line previously. Again, we just have a new paint variant of it, which is actually quite nice. And the same can be said for the Ceratosaurus. We have had this in more of a JP3 color scheme. This time we have it in the brownish coloration that we did have on, I think, Auroravore at some point, maybe also in the Dino Rivals line. but you can see that we have a brownish tone and then kind of like an orange that runs along the back and kind of stripes and designs down. And we do have an eye painted there. You can see we've got a yellow eye, and yet again it looks as though they actually attempted to give it pupils, which is really, really exciting. I did not expect that coming into this because the paintwork for these minis has been pretty lackluster for the most part, but these ones are actually quite nice. And again, another really nice paint variant of the Ceratosaurus. We have already gone over the sculpt of this one as well in the past, but the new paint variant, I actually think, even though I'm a huge fan of the JP3 version, I think I might like this one a little bit better than the JP3 variant we had previously. We've also got a Parasaurolophus, but we have had this Parasaurolophus in the past. I believe this is the first time we've had it released in the mainline minis, but we had it in the Advent calendar, I believe, was the first place that I had seen this, and I think it might have actually made an appearance in one of the play sets as well at some point. Still a pretty nice version, kind of reminiscent, sort of the Dominion style coloration of a Parasaurolophus, but definitely a really, really nicely sculpted out and quite nice looking paint scheme for the Parasaurolophus. But since we've already reviewed that one, no need to waste any more time on it. Then we've got ourselves the Sinoceratops, and look at how beautiful this is. The sculpt of this Sinoceratops is phenomenal. Like, I absolutely love this, and this is definitely one of the two figures entering the line from this wave that I would say are two of the best Mattel minis that we have had yet. Look at the detailing and everything. It is incredible for something so small. Definitely one of, again, the best sculpted minis as well. You could see super, super nice looking sculpt and detail. Obviously, we have a speckling running amok on this figure. We can see a nice greenish tone and then kind of like a light yellowish green here for the back that kind of stripes and designs through. Really striking look as far as that goes. You can also see some orange here in the face, a nice painted black eye. The black even has kind of like a little bit of a glossy look to it, which is really cool. And you can see that that big nasal horn is also nicely painted with kind of like an off-white. So the paint of this is also phenomenal. I would have loved to have seen more paint like on the spikes and everything running along, but it's still really, really nice looking. And again, definitely, in my opinion, one of the best minis we've had yet. And there is articulation. As you can see, you can move the neck up and down, and it's also on a ball joint, so you can swivel that neck even upside down if you choose to snap the neck of your Sinoceratops. But that is absolutely gorgeous. Easily the second best figure, actually probably the best of this wave, just because it does have eye paint, because the one that I would have said would have been the best was this one, the Nasutoceratops, but for some reason, they completely, if my camera would focus on it, they completely skipped the eye paint on this one. I don't get it. I have no idea why they chose to do that, especially when so many others have eye paint. This one did not get the eye paint treatment, but again, sculpt-wise, it is incredible. It's the first time we've seen a Nasutoceratops in the minifigures as far as I can recall, and definitely the first time we've seen it with more screen-accurate paint, because even the more mainline versions haven't had this nice-looking coloration. I hope we get one at some point in the very near future with the more screen-accurate paint job, but this absolutely looks gorgeous as far as the paintwork. We have a nice grayish tone. We have those reds up there on the back kind of splotching and designing around, and then you also have that up here in the frill of the Nasutoceratops, and then of course the horns are painted with that kind of like a light yellow, and there is like a black speckling throughout the figure. You can see kind of showing up here and there. Again, sculpt and detail wise, it is incredible. Look at how nice that detail is for something so small. This is absolutely a figure worth repainting even at this smaller size. That detail, well, if my camera would focus on it, that detail is gorgeous looking. It just really, really needed eye paint and maybe even the beak painted. And man, that would have been one of the best minifigures that Mattel has released ever. Still, in my opinion, one of the best. But it really needed that eye paint. Again, we have the same type of articulation, though, as we had for the Sinoceratops, with the head able to move up and down and also can swivel. Again, same deal. Absolutely love this Nasutoceratops, and I am beyond excited about this wave, but mostly for these two Ceratopsians. Now, I normally don't have any problems with the figures standing when it comes to these minis, or at least I haven't so far. Of course, our faithful Ceratopsians stand nicely because they're quadrupedal. No issues there. The Parasaurolophus, there it is, that'll probably stand fine as well because also in a quadrupedal pose. But some of them don't stand so great, and I don't know what it is about them. So our Atrociraptor does stand. The Therizinosaurus should stand. Yeah, also stands. The Stygimoloch, not so much. I did have it standing at one point. There we go. It doesn't stand beautifully, but it can stand. Then we've got the Ceratosaurus, which is standing. think the Moros was giving me some trouble before. And oh, there we go. We got that one standing. The Pyro Raptor never seems to have an issue. That one stands quite nicely. The ones that I had the worst problem with, I think, were the Yangchuanosaurus and the Suchomimus. So we'll see how they go now. Now they're probably going to knock some of these other figures over. Oh, there we go. We got it standing. Now they're going to make liars out of me. So the final one is the Yangchuanosaurus. Let's see what happens here. Nope, not so much. Alright, so this one's definitely top heavy and doesn't want to stand. So the Yangchuanosaurus, oh, now he knocks stuff over. The Yangchuanosaurus is definitely not standing well. So far, the others seem to stand okay. I did have some issues with them a little bit ago, but now they're standing okay. I don't feel like we need to do sizes or anything because we absolutely know what the sizes of these minifigures are at this point. But if for some reason you haven't seen any minifigures yet, we'll go ahead and just give you a size comparison. So there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to all of our minis and the Yangchuanosaurus on its face because I still didn't pick it up because it doesn't want to stand. And it also knocked over the Stygimoloch. Oh, and now the Suchomimus went down, so we're starting to have a little bit of a problem here with our dinosaur standing. Regardless, if you happen to have any of these figures here before you, as far as the Papo Rex or Muldoon or the Dilophosaurus, then hopefully you'll have an idea of the size of the minis if you don't already. But again, like I said, at this point we're so far into the Mattel Jurassic World Dominion line, I'm pretty sure if you're a Mattel Jurassic World collector, you'll already know the size of the minis. So this new wave, Wave 3, and I guess maybe the final wave, because we're moving into Dino Trackers, of the Jurassic World Dominion minifigure line, is really quite nice, and definitely another fun set of minis. Again, there are 3 other figures I haven't shown here, which would be the Rex, actually both Rexes, the green and brown, so the male and female, and also the Giganotosaurus, because we've seen them so many times at this point, we really don't need to see them again. But this time we again have some pretty cool new species entering the line, like the Moros. The Moros is a very cool looking figure, very similar to the initial kind of Ferocious Pack version Mattel released, but it has the paint scheme similar but not exact to the newer version that was released, which again is more of a Dominion style paint scheme, which I really quite like. We also have the Concavenator, which we did have that one in the line before, but we now have a repainted version, sporting more of a Dino Rivals, again I think it's Dino Rivals type of a paint scheme, and I really quite like that. Pretty fun reminder of how nice the older Concavenator figure was, but also cool to see it again in minifigure form with that paint scheme. Same deal with the Ceratosaurus, as we have had that in the line already, but we had the JP3 colors on it. This time we have, again, the more kind of like Roaravore or Roar Attack coloration. I forget what one that one was, but it also looks quite cool and maybe is even nicer than the JP3 version. The Therizinosaurus is exactly the same figure as before. No need to really, go too far in depth with that one. Same deal with the Parasaurolophus. Even though this one wasn't released in the main line prior, it was released in the Advent calendar, so it's still cool. Especially if you missed the Advent calendar, it's cool for people to have a chance to grab this Parasaurolophus without having to spend the like $30 or $40 or whatever it was for the Advent calendar. But then you also have an Atrociraptor, and as far as I can recall, I don't remember us having this coloration before, and it looks really cool. I actually quite like it, almost like a Lost World Velociraptor, and very similar to Tiger, but a little bit different. But I'm thinking, honestly, that their goal was probably to make that a Tiger version. It's just not perfect as per usual. You also have the Suchomimus, which the Suchomimus is very nice, another figure that we did have in the line prior, but a pretty cool looking paint scheme that I believe we also had in a previously released version in the Mattel line, not on a minifigure, the larger version, but definitely another nice figure. You also have a Yangchuanosaurus, which is pretty cool to have in the Mattel minifigure line, and it has a pretty cool paint scheme to it as well. Nice and flashy, maybe not the most naturalistic paint scheme, but it looks alright, I guess. Definitely a very, very cool looking figure. Then you've also got the Pyro Raptor, which is pretty fun, but again, it's another one of those figures that we did already have, and I don't notice anything different on this one compared to the previously released version. You've got the Stygimoloch, which is really, really cool because I love the Stygimoloch, and it's definitely a very nice interpretation here of the minifigures, and it's the first time we've had one in the Dominion line, so it's the first time we've had one at this smaller size. And then you also have the Ceratopsians, like the Sinoceratops, and the Sinoceratops is beautiful, and I would say probably the best figure out of all of these in this wave as far as my opinion goes. Really nice sculpt, really nice paint, some pretty cool articulation on top of everything. And then we have what could have been the best of all here, which is the Nasutoceratops, but it's missing eye paint. That's the only thing that messes that figure up for me. Still an absolutely gorgeous sculpt, and I am beyond excited to actually have the more screen-accurate paint application to it, which I really hope that we get a Nasutoceratops in the main line with that coloration sometime soon. But as a whole, this is another awesome wave of Mattel minis, so I really do recommend grabbing them if you can find them. So these were found at my local Walmart, so again, check your local Walmart. Hopefully they'll be showing up there soon if they're not there already. And also, I actually have this image here that tells you which figures are in which. It's the kind of like cheat code to get you all the figures you want without having to buy every single one of them and just guess. I don't know who is responsible for this image, so I do apologize to whoever it was that created it, because I can't give you credit as I don't recall. At some point I was scrolling through the internet and I found it and I'd saved it, and now unfortunately I don't remember who made it. So if you do know who made it, and you can let me know in the comments section, I'll give them credit in the description. But regardless, again, a little cheat sheet for you if you want to grab these. If you can find them and you're only interested in certain ones, this should help you out. But regardless, an awesome round of minis yet again. So make sure you again pick them up at your local Walmart, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.